It's not about unit
it's
test.
purely functional.
Functional test, so it's from the UI perspective. Of course, the same tool can be used for the interface testing or back-end testing as well. But mainly what I'm talking here will be UI stuff. So I'll be addressing your issue as well, what you mentioned, the difficulty that you face. So, yep, that's that. In the next session, we'll have Chin who will talk about some of the automated testing tools that he has used before for his API testing. So it's more like what you have said just now. He didn't prepare today, so don't blame me. Now, okay, today I'm going to cover what is called test automation. Why do we need test automation? Simple stuff first. How do we use the test automation? Okay, and it's a very critical thing. Okay, if we have test automation, does it mean that all the functional testers will lose their jobs? It is a valid concern to testers because this is supposed to be a tester's forum. And then, yeah, lastly, I'll cover on the test automation framework, which would be slightly dry, I would say. But I'll try to help you understand. It's a concept. I don't want to touch too much on the technical details, but I'll just give you an idea of what I do. Before I go into that, maybe I just let you know what is my experience in test automation. When I first graduated, I entered this company in Singapore. So the boss asked me, after 3 days of trying out, he said, so we have separated testing into 2 teams here. One will be a small team of testers called automation testers. They move from project to project automating test frameworks. So the other group of people are manual testers, a bit larger group, so you mingle with more people and you just do manual testing. So my boss asked me, which team do you want to? Because I see a little bit of this in you and a little bit of that in you. And I say, because very simple. If you put me into manual testing, for the past few days performance you see I've been sleeping on my desk. I find sometimes I find it quite tiring to do repetitive tasks. So I find it more challenging to do test automation itself. So yeah, it was kind of lucky for me. Sorry. Tell yourself you can halfway go and take a fruit. It doesn't matter. Okay. So luckily for me, I got into test automation at a later stage and managed to learn more from my seniors there as well. So after working in Singapore for 2 years, I moved on. I come over to KL. I worked in Standard Chartered for 2 years, and then I worked in higher companies for 2 months, and now I'm in Zurich. Yep. So, what is test automation? I have this simple diagram here to signify a very simple tester's task. Maybe anyone can guess what am I trying to convey here? I'm using, because I think I did this presentation for iProperty, so this is the iProperty website's logo.
Yeah, that's deployment, right?
Okay, basically that's the requirement.
Yeah.
The developer will code it, and then the testers will test it, and then we have to test it. So what we try to do here, test automation is very simple. The testing part, we try to make it not a manual work. Okay, so the testers will have more time to do some other stuff we need to do. Yep, we have an automation tool there instead.
Just quickly, while he's presenting, if any of you are like hungry, just grab something.
It's a very open thing. You all can walk around, go and grab food.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can pause first. Because you all are here before you have dinner, just go and get food first. Time out. Come on.
Come on.
Go.
Yeah.
Eat it while it's hot.
It's free food.
This. Tell us up. So you don't stand just now, you brought the chicken. Is that really good or?
Yeah, you can try.
No, it's just water, right?
What was it?
Can I pass the menu?
Come on. Okay, I continue with this. Okay, so why do we need test automation? I think most of you have covered it. Is that we want to save time, okay? Which in this case means save resources and save cost for the company on overall. And accurate That means it's less prone to human mistake. But here, you see, I didn't say that it's extremely accurate. It's just that we try to reduce the human mistakes, but if you do mistakenly code it in a different wrong way, then definitely there will be mistakes as well. Okay. Reliable. So what we try to do is that with the amount of time available, we have more resources, then we'll be able to increase test coverage itself, so that whatever product they roll out will be more secure. Okay, I'll cover more about the reliable part. Okay, just now, like what you mentioned just now, sorry I couldn't get the name. Okay, you said that we use test automation to do repetitive tasks. Okay, here I classify into two different types of automated testing. One is a simple way, where you have a repeated task. Okay, let's say you want to key in a value into a sheet on a web page, and then you try to verify the value on the next page. So you have to do it multiple times on the same page itself. So what you do is you do some simple automation, you loop it up, key in all data in the sheet, and then extract all data. So what you have is, if you're doing it manually, you take this amount of time. But if you do an automation, you write a script, and then you let the script does its work. It might be slightly longer, but your testers has got more time free up. Okay? That would be a very simple way of automating tasks, making your life more efficient. But what I'm talking about today will be more on this regression testing. Okay? It will require test automation tools used in conjunction with test automation framework. So what we try to achieve is that in manual case, you do the work repetitively across different cycles. And with this automation framework, what you do is you spend more time doing whatever it needs to be done, and then following time, if there's an update or whatsoever, you just use the script instead of doing it manually. Let me try to illustrate this more. Let's say we have three functions to implement across three different phases, A, B, and C. So if you're doing it manually, once you completed A, you test for A, right? Then you roll it out. When it comes to the second phase, A and B, you have to test that the new function B works, and then a regression testing that function A works as well. So when it comes to C, you need to test for all three. So when it is a very complex system, you have many functions, you have to test for all of it, the manpower and resources required is simply not sustainable. Okay? What we do in practice currently for most of the testing is that we define the scope of what we want to test with related to the change. So we see how complex it is, we assign how many resources to get the job done. Right? But in some cases, we might miss out some of the items within the application itself. So we might miss out some modules that are affected because we did not define in our scope, nobody noticed it, or whatever. That's why if we can make a system that do test out all the functionalities regardless of whether it's affected or not, then we can reduce that. That's what I mean by reliable. So how do automation help to achieve that? This is what we do. In regression testing, we only automate the regression testing part. So when function A is done, we do a manual testing to test that it is done. Okay? It is completed, manual testing to check it's correct. Then we roll it out, but at the same time, we code the automation, test automation for function A. So when it comes to the second phase, you just need to test for function B, manual testing, and then function A, which you have coded before, you just use the test script itself to run the test. So on and so forth. So comparing these two, you can see that the resources used for this is more scalable, even if you have a very complex system, as long as the testers or the person doing the script is very involved with the project right from the beginning. Whereas for this, as the system gets more and more complicated, you need more and more testers. Any questions so far? So what test automation do is not to completely replace the tester. We don't want to do that because manual testing, yes, still has got a lot of these good points about it. We cannot just throw away manual testing. It's just that we want to make sure that testing is scalable. A lot of companies they think that testing is important, but we can't have that many manpower to do testing. where you have like, for example, a ratio of 1 developer to let's say 3 testers. It's just not sustainable. But if you implement test automation right from the start, it is sustainable. Any comments?
So if you have a module A, let's say, so then the next time it's still module A, but you add a small function, then do you do a manual testing?
You have to do a manual testing first,
and then
then you code it again.
even though it's the same module that you already have coded before, let's say you just add a few small features, and then you have to do the whole manual testing again.
Yes. Of course. For example, even if we don't do test automation, currently, let's say an existing function there's a change list, there's a CR to it. So what you do is the developers will make the code change, and then the testers will test it as well. Then we roll out to production. So here we have an issue is that if we are going to code it, how do we make sure that it won't take too much of an effort to maintain whatever test scripts that you created, the automation scripts. So I'm gonna give you two very simple examples. Okay, let's say we have two test cases that we want to automate. We have test case 1, which is to log in, check account details, and then log out. So each of these different, this would be the test case, this would be the actions that we want to perform in this sequence. So what does login do? We have to enter some text into the text box. We click on the button to log in. Then we check account details, we get some of the information to verify. And then when we log out, we need to click the log out button. Simple as that, right? So if you are doing test automation as per using whatever record and play function that they have, so what I do is you record a series of these actions, and then you can play repeatedly. But the thing is, let's say imagine you have multiple of these different test cases, and like what you mentioned just now, if there is a change to any one of the element, you have to make sure you go into the script, every one of them check whichever objects that have been changed on the UI script, you have to make the changes to it. That is one issue. So give me another example. Test case 2. What we want to do is again log in. We want to post this thing. This one is referring to posting an advertisement on iProperties. Then we log out. Similarly, log in, we need to enter whatever credentials we have. Click on the login button. Post this thing is also to enter descriptive text, title, whatsoever. Click on the submit button. Log out is to click on the log out button. You notice that these two different test cases is largely different. What we want to achieve from these two is very different. But some of the actions, they are common across both test cases. You see the login, logout, they are the same. It's just that the middle part has changed. And then whatever actions that we perform below is also largely related. So the test automation framework that I have is very simple. We have a test case. Okay, we call it on the test case level, followed by a set of reusable actions. So we separate them into different type of functions actions that we want produce or reproduce. Put them into different chunks, and then each of these reusable actions can call any of the reusable components. So for example, like what you mentioned, if there's any change to any of the components or objects or UI, then you just need to change it here. Whatever actions that call the same object will be the changes will be reflected. You just need to change in one place. So if you plan and design your test automation scripts right from the start using this type of framework, then whatever changes easily maintainable. Any loss? Sorry?
Relatively maintainable.
Relatively maintainable. It's better than the horrible way where you have a whole chunk of code and you have to find through every single one. And if you do miss, then when you run it, you can encounter execution error. Then you try to redo it again. It's going to waste a lot of time. Any questions so far? Anyone lost? Anyone lost? No. So simple. Okay. So I'll just before we get into Q&A, I'll just do a simple demo to show you. The tools I'm using is actually simple Java with Selenium.
Okay.
NetBeans.
Yep, just using them.
You are now full.
I don't know why the Windows NetBeans loads so slow and the Mac's one loads really really fast.
Anyone have any questions? You know, just shoot at me. I'll be able. I'll try to answer.
Okay.
Okay. Java is just very standard. You just need to get Java. If you want to use Selenium, you just need to get this API from Selenium itself. Just Google it, you should be able to find it. Yep, this three, you need to get it. The JXL.jar is actually Java to Excel API. Microsoft Excel. Anyone not familiar with this, just ask questions.
Are you using the headless web driver or you use the browser driving one or both?
Browser driving.
Do you have any experience with the headless, using the headless one so to speed up the test?
No.
Do you have problem with headers?
No, not in this one.
Okay, just let me show you how I actually code it. So what I did was, whatever test cases I have, I'm putting under the main. Okay, so this is my main class that I'll run from. From this, whatever functions that I need to use is actually called from a set of reusable actions, which I actually segregate them into different classes based on whichever page they are on. So for this example, I use the commercial leisure page, which is an iPocket page. So they have different pages. So there's the main page. So after you search it, there should be a search details page. Search result page and such. So each of these pages, they might access some of the common components, which I then group under the reusable components.
But if your actions is used in multiple pages, do you repeat it or?
Sorry?
Your actions is used in multiple pages? Because here you have your reusable action, then you have.
Okay, let's say you are doing a search function. If your search function you are performing it from the main page, is different from the search function that you are going to perform on a different page. So even if you are doing function tests, you will test it differently. So in here, we code it separately.
For each page.
Yeah, for each page. It depends on how your application is going to be. You can design to your own way. But what I'm trying to tell you is that the general concept is to segregate them into different functions and then components. Let me see if I have a simpler example. Okay, just let me do this quick example if you are not sure how Selenium works. This is a very simple example to show you. You just need to include whatever API that you need to use, which is here, Selenium, I use here.
And
It's going to test on Firefox.
the text bigger.
Sorry?
The text bigger. The fonts.
How?
Or you can just change the resolution. I think right click, go to Windows preferences. Go Windows preferences up there.
Sorry?
Beside the
Windows
help.
preferences, preferences, blah 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 blah. Somewhere there. Oh yeah, there you go.
Option. Editor fonts.
Font. Yep.
There's no font size.
The button one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Press OK.
Then you have
Yeah.
many lines.
Just gonna showcase how Selenium works actually. These are the stuff that is included. So what it does is here I instantiate resource component module that I'll be using. Here is what I'm going to run this chunk. So the first line is to call the WebDriver to navigate to the page google.com. And I'm going to maximize it because it doesn't start maximize. And then this is to get the query box, the main query box from Google. I recognize it by its ID, which is this. And then I key in this into the query box. Automation is easy. And then I click on the button to search. So let's try to run this. See, I did not touch the keyboard at all, so everything is automated. This is a very simple example. Okay, combined with the concept that I just told you about, you can actually create the test scripts for whatever systems that you are working on. You can design whatever how you want it to work. So just to give you a rough example, okay, this would be I created this class to extend from the main task, the main test. So a lot of the functions are very simplified. I'm reading the data from Excel to determine what are the data I need to input into the actions that I want to test. So when it runs, when call run actually runs chunk stuff. Here. So you actually go in to read whatever Excel sheet that I have, and then based on whatever I've written in Excel, you go and
I'm seeing multi-dimension array.
fetch the appropriate action. So what I did was here. That's it. For example, I detected that I wanted to launch a page. So what I'll do is that I'll get, because to navigate the page is one function to me. So I actually coded this. So you see it is under CA main page, which is under reusable actions. So the actions that I have is to check that the page load success, go to this page. You can search on this page. Each of these are different functions in the page itself. So let's say for example within a particular function, I'll just take a simple one, clone page. So if I need to use a smaller component that might be used by other functions, what I did is I put it inside the reusable component itself. Which is here. So different functions can have similar components. Let's say for example I need to find an element or whatsoever. I put it under the components because I want to be able to catch if there's any error, and then be able to log whatever information that I have. So let's say for example we need to use, there is a change in this particular object. Instead of using Dropbox, they're using radio button or whatsoever. Okay, all of this you just need to change it from the reusable component itself. Then it will be reflected in all of those similar components that are being used by each of the functions. You get what
Okay.
I'm about? So it's very similar to I would say some of how the developers actually maintain their code as well. It's on a page object kind of design as well. So once they change an object, you change it on your script as well, you'll be able to reflect across the whole script. It's kind of hard for me to explain it just by scrolling through the code, and if you go through the code, it will be like early in the morning already. So yeah, just shoot me with whatever questions you have.
In your opinion, right, how programming, how much programming knowledge does the QA need to write? This is essentially a developer's job.
No.
Sort of.
Okay. Traditionally,
Yeah.
QA would just do manual testing.
Yeah.
Right?
Most of them will use the those click and record tools.
Yeah.
But that's not a good practice, obviously.
Yes.
So to write this, I find this a bit more towards the dev to maintain. A QA, I'm not sure. I haven't seen a lot of QA for.
But most of the QA wouldn't be doing this. That's for sure.
So to maintain this, if there are some errors or if something change, in your opinion, is the developer?
No. Okay, whatever test scripts that testers develop, testers write, testers should take ownership and maintain it. So the developers have their own, code to do. If there's any change, they inform the testers will have to maintain it. So
Learn programming.
So actually, yeah.
so that's why I would say test automators, automation testers are not the traditional type of manual testing testers. So they need to know
Some programming.
testing methodology as well as very proficient in coding.
Okay.
There are some applications, testing tools out there, automation, that doesn't require that much of programming, but yeah, I don't find it that user friendly.
Yeah, there's no magic.
Because the other day I was just trying it out, then somebody was explaining to me a new tool that I encountered. It's called can't even remember the name. Maybe they try to get rid of programming at all. But they do support, let's say if you want to do a conditional statement or whatsoever, they have an equivalent function of it, which is not a simple if bracket, close bracket, else. It is you have to create a new folder, put this in, then put your condition inside the folder and whatsoever. It's very troublesome.
Does this testing work cross browser?
Sorry?
This testing work cross browser?
This testing, no. Each of these browser is recognized by its driver ID. So if you need to instantiate another one, you just call a new one and perform actions on different browser drivers. There are more powerful tools that I have not used in this demo because the license is quite expensive. But those will be able to cross browser as well as to work on most of the applications on whatever platform.
What are those tools?
Sorry?
What are those tools?
If you want, I would recommend two tools that is very commonly used in the market. Quick Test Professional, QTP, and the other one is RFT, Rational Function Tester. Both of these are very powerful and it requires, yes, some programming knowledge to use it.
Have you had experience with push to test, which is supposedly built on top of Selenium as well?
No. This is mainly I use it as a data-driven automation. There are new ones coming up like behavior-driven testing, which is you can try Cucumber.
So how long iProperty has been doing Selenium testing?
Can I see it's confidential? No, I don't work anymore, I can't say about that.
Oh, okay, I mean like 1 year or so many years.
They hired me and started everything from scratch.
Oh, okay. And
2 months.
the reason why I ask this, so
You want to automate, I automated one.
and how do you map requirements to your tests?
How do I get requirements to my test? I get requirements direct from the VA itself and ask them because automation they didn't involve me right from the start, so I wasn't able to automate everything. So I asked them what are the key areas that you want to automate, and then they tell me what is it. I mentioned there's four. So I managed to code one, the base code and one of it. So we have to build on top of this framework. The remaining three should not be an issue. I actually trained them, created all these as well to train them on to how to perform this.
Then sorry, I've
No problem, no problem. Just
maximum 2 more questions, okay?
no worries.
Then,
I
so after doing this right now, oh, before I ask you this, is iProperty website Ajax driven or anything? No. No. Yes, no. Oh, so this one, right?
This one.
The reason why I ask this is, it's no. So you've been doing this for 3 months. So let's say 1 year later, you guys decided to dump away whatever that you have built. You want to build a, you know, maybe you change to use Rails or
You're talking about the test script or you're talking about the
UI
website
itself. The UI. It's being about UI. So when you guys want to throw away what you have built, you realize that what you built is outdated, it's not following the technical trend, then you change to backbone.js with this and blah blah blah. So what will happen to your test?
Okay. If there is a major work on the development and definitely there will be some work on the testing end as well. It's like a new product, like what you say. But you how do I say? Usually there wouldn't be that much of a major change immediately.
Okay.
Because there is cost involved in doing whatever it needs to be done. So let's say a major change, like what you mentioned, will require a lot of resources and it costs a lot of money. I don't think any business users would request for this and pay for the amount of money based on the technical, importance.
Maybe I can beef up a bit this answer lah. Even if you change your whole website or whole back end and stuff, right, you still need to use HTML, you still need to use JavaScript, CSS, right? So based on as his example, some of the functions where you get element by ID, then those are pretty basic stuff. All you need to do is find name of the new UI.
Yes.
Yeah, and there are actually a lot of tools to do that, but what you actually need is just to change the name of the element, and a bit it's kind of like even though the whole website changed, the element ID is still there. You can still grab whatever you want.
Depends on how huge the change. Let's say if the developer say, okay, we're gonna change how the back end works, but the front end will still looks the same and all objects will still have the same ID that we are using, then yeah, congratulations, no work needed to be done anymore.
So,
I doubt that is.
so have you guys hit into changes before? I mean, have you guys ever experienced it throughout your career life that a site really changed? For example, like MySpace right now changed to that MySpace. Have you tried? Have you ever experienced that before?
Earlier ones,
That means you can manage it lah. I can't manage it. You can't.
So, any good tools to learn what you do?
Sorry?
Any good tools or references,
Yeah, tutorials.
materials to learn what you study?
Not that I'm aware of. Because most of these I get the concept when I first joined the first company that I went to. The seniors told me about the concept, and across multiple projects or 8 projects, I do try and error stuff. I made a lot of mistakes, and I realized that this way of doing it doesn't help as much. So I try to improvise on it across different projects. So this is what I have currently. I would say it's more efficient to use this way than to do it different, any other way. Maybe there are some better ways, but I yet to think of it. Last time when I first started out, what we had was there's no reusable functions, reusable actions, and reusable components. It's all by test case. So they group the test case by different modules, different functions. So we code it one by one, each test case, one page of code. So we just record and play it like what you say. So there is an issue when there's a change. So the single test case on the same page itself, once any UI on the page change, you have to change, find through exactly it affects which test scripts they have automated, find the object and change it. It's a huge task to do that. So we try to compartmentalize it. It's got
So your criteria for your reusable component is just those things that you see is being used often, like search by ID and things like that. You just put a wrapper around it.
like what else?
This reusable component is actually in object oriented we call it refactoring, meaning all the common use stuff
Yeah, just put it in there.
yeah, so it's because he's using Java,
Yeah.
so it's more object oriented approach, reusable.
Mr. Yu, any lines? Is Java the only language supported?
No, Selenium supports a few other different languages as well. I remember there's Ruby support.
Maybe Margaret should teach you about that.
Should be able, right?
Does this support Rails?
Yeah. You have C Sharp, Java, Python, and Ruby.
Any specific reason why you use Java to write?
Because when I approached high faculties, they requested me to use Selenium IDE, which is this funny looking little thing.
Yeah.
So I find it very limited. I couldn't do conditional stuff. Let's say I encounter data that is of this kind. I want to do a different type of function. Let's say if I'm very simple, if I detect that the data that I key in is a consumer, then I want to log in as a user. Let's say I detect that it's an admin, I want to log in as an admin and test on the admin function. I cannot do any of these if else condition statement using Selenium IDE. So yeah, I invested time to try to find a free way of automating. So Selenium, yeah, this is what I found. You can use C Sharp, Java, Python, or Ruby. And I chose Java because I wanted to ask them to get RFT, Rational Function Tester, which is a more powerful tool like I mentioned just now, and that is Java. So if I code this in Java and they do really say, hey, automation is worth the money, then we get RFT, I can just port most of the code from here to there without too much of work.
Can you show some of the data driven Excel kind of stuff? How you structure that?
I think I didn't copy the Excel out, but yeah, I don't think I have it with me. But basically, what I do.
They're all using Rails. So it's like they all love Rails, but you want to do automated testing in another language, you have to learn it.
Yeah.
So I don't have it with me. But let me explain
Do in Ruby.
normally what I do.
A bit like Ruby.
Like Ruby on Rails is already like magic unicorns, man. I have no idea how they're gonna make that.
Just use Excel. First column will indicate whether you want to execute or not.
Okay.
The
Yes or no.
row. And then the second one will be unique identifier, a statement that human readable, yet the program can detect as well. So normally what I will write is, for example, login. Then behind that will be columns of data that you want to input. For example, the login username and then password. And then the second row will be another function that you need to do. Let's say after the login, like what we have, the example just now would be to verify the details and then log out, right? So verify details, log out, and verify details. You can put in whatever information you key in. Okay. Then let's say you want to verify, then verify details. Then whatever details you want to verify, then log out.
Okay,
That would
that
be
means for each different type action, the columns, like third column will have a certain meaning, like login or.
yeah. I will do that because it's easier to read, and you can actually make comment rows in Excel itself to signify which column for whatever action needs what type of data.
Hmm.
Then you just ignore the particular comment row when you're coding it, or let's say just don't execute it. For I got this one, I can group them into two different columns instead of just executing. The first one is a group ID, the second one will be an action ID. So it's like A1, A2, A3, A4. So if any particular step fails, you just skip on to the next group until all
Okay, the whole
actions
group.
inside.
Okay.
So I think that might be a easier way for the non programmer skilled QA testers to write the things into the Excel, and then after that your code pulls in Excel.
The person who, yeah. If you get a QA who can come up with a script and design the whole thing, the person can do it, and then the other QA, manual QAs can actually utilize the tool itself to do the testing once they know how to configure the Excel sheet, key in whatever is needed. But definitely maintaining this script and coming out with the design itself, you need a QA who is half a QA, half a developer.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are your challenges throughout this experience, and what do you recommend?
What are the challenges I face?
The biggest pain in your ass.
Biggest pain in the ass. It's also
that
the
we don't
reason.
repeat.
It's also the reason why I'm standing here today. When I'm working on this, I'm working on it alone. There's nobody to help me, and it's very hard to find QA who knows automated testing here in KL.
This is a developer.
So it's not. That's why you see the mentality is very different here in KL. People think that when it comes to programming, it must be a developer's job. QA is supposed to do non-coding stuff. But that's why whichever company it goes to in Malaysia, when they say they hire automated tester, I go in, I'll be the one or two person who is doing it. We won't have enough resources to help us to do whatever is needed to be done. So sometimes it's like half-ass work, and people will look at us and say, so what have you done so far? And we say, oh, we're just doing manual testing. What about automated testing? I don't have resources, then they can't give you a budget. Even if they do give you, you can't find the talents to do it. Then it's very frustrating. Back in Singapore, my team of this test automation, a simple application of just verifying a PDF output. It was for a bank, so they have statements every month. They print it up as a PDF, then send it to screenshot. So it wasn't a lot of customers, about 100,000 or so. But each of these clients are very particular. They are rich people, so they are very particular. So they want to make sure that whatever they have in the PDF, there's no issue before they want to send it out to the customer. So they engage us to tell us that they want to do functional testing, but instead they actually use our application for production testing. So before they send out, they run through the test and make sure everything's fine before they send it out. So for that particular module itself, my team has got 5 people working 3 months on it. And here we are expected to automate the whole thinking website, all the content with only one person. Read between the lines. So yeah, that's why I'm saying.
So how do you decide, since you're the only person working on this, so how do you decide which is the best case to automate first?
So the TA.
Which one brings more value in automating?
Definitely the one that is reused, but
So do you
generally.
play that role in identifying what's more valuable?
Yeah, we will identify and we would actually recommend, but it's not our call because they pay us to do it. We can recommend them what needs to be done. They have to give us the approval. So normally what I would suggest is 2 things. One is if it's highly reused, and another one is very critical to business, even if it's rarely used. Let's say I'll give you a very simple example would be Google. Let's say the most reused function would be just the search. So you definitely have to automate the search function and make sure it's working fine. Because if you don't do it and it fails, people would lose confidence in your company. So the other part that is less used, but it generates income for a company, you also have to test it. For example, let's say people signing up for ad, they want to advertise with your website. Then these functions might not be used by most of the people who visit your website. But you have to make sure that it's working fine, so you have to automate it. is where your new customers come from for your company. Then you just automate it with script code. So these are things that automate. So whenever there is a new addition to whatever website you're running, run through the whole test suite again as a regression test to make sure that all these critical functions are not covered.
So in your opinion, QA engineer should it be a very experienced developer, or do you take newbies and things?
Sorry? To do this?
Yeah.
Whoever has got the passion to learn can be able to take it. No chance. You see, people who hire QA here, they will say, we want to hire people who come from an IT background. Then people who be QA, most of them, I wouldn't say all, will be people who say, I study IT because I don't know what to choose, and now I don't want to do programming, so I get into QA. Which, you see, this is the common mentality, but it's wrong. It's very wrong. QA is not supposed to just do manual testing. You can step above that and do more. And this is definitely a more sustainable way of testing, because otherwise, as the project gets more complicated, then you need more people. It's just crazy. It's just impossible.
So do you still do manual end-to-end tests after you have completed all your Selenium test cases? Will you still do that?
Okay, like what I mentioned just now. Let me get this.
A full end-to-end test, because from that one, right? It seems to be the person is only testing that new additional function. So I'm asking, will you still be doing the complete full end-to-end test?
I think we have a lot of testers here, right? Can anyone tell me you all have done full regression test before?
I mean, will you still?
Me?
Yes.
If I have the scripts?
Yes, if you already have all the scripts, will you still do a full end-to-end test?
Manually?
Yes.
Why would I want to do that?
You won't, right? Okay.
If you have a cloud, you won't, right?
Is there a chance where, let's say you do develop a script and it passes for like a few months, and you realize actually you've broken the script, but you don't realize that because it's passing the test on time?
If that happens, then
yeah, but that happens is only when people come to you. It's not because the QA has prevented it to happen manually.
Yeah, that's right. Garbage in, garbage out is still coding as well. But one way to reduce this is very simple. You see, here we have a new module coming in. So what we do is we perform a series of manual testing first. Then we make sure that, okay, it passed already. Then we do the coding. So when we do the coding, what we do is we have a set of data, input data, and then whatever output that we get, we verify that it matches. So after manual testing, you code it, you make sure that the results are correct already. The next time you pass in the same information, you are expecting the same result as well. So if anything differs, then you know something's wrong.
The reason why I ask this is, so there are two influencers. One guy is James Bark. He works on he emphasizes a lot on validation. And another guy is Goshko. He emphasizes a lot on non-UI testing. So there are actually a lot of gaps in UI testing as compared with human testing. That there are really things that you really can't automate because you need the eyes to see. So when you say that after you have done all the scripts, you really won't do a manual test, that actually scares me a little bit.
No, because if you already fix whatever inputs that you have and you're expecting the same output, this is for regression test. I'm not talking about regression test. There is, so far within my working life, I've never seen a full manual regression test before. No, nobody will do that. Have you tried? Have you done it before?
Our QA team does that.
Full regression test,
Yeah,
every single test case,
really
or do you just selectively take out some test case to do it?
They really the reason why we have to do full regression tests because we are building a cloud platform. The entire cloud platform requires setting up VMs, and these are the things that you really can't automate with hands because it will boot up the VM, then we'll be installing CDN automation stuff in there that you will have to set up domains and websites that bring things up. So it's really, really complicated and you really can't.
Okay, what is the setting up part? You do it manually. But
you have to register domains and such, so there are things that just can't be done. Really, really, really. It's talking about setting up clouds and VMs and stuff. That you have to work in the shells and blah 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 and this and that.
Why can we not automate that?
Maybe you think it's really easy to automate that.
No, if it is a repeated task that the human is producing, why can't the machine do it? Unless you're saying that, okay, let's say you want to set up this website but it's with this particular URL or whatsoever, but it's not available or something, then you need the human to make a decision to choose another one. Then probably yes, if such an on the spot decision is needed, then the machine might not be able to do that. But if you are able to code it intelligent enough to do that, then it can do that as well. Why not?
A CDN, right? A CDN requires a few servers to present in different locations, and testing whether the DNS server is actually redirecting things to the right place. So the entire process also requires DNS server setup and such, and also requires having different machines at different places. So the automation is really difficult. But anyway, I don't want to drag away too far. I'm just saying that for our product, I'm just saying that our product is really hard to do.
No, maybe if let's say very simple thing, if you can't do a full scale automation, let's see whatever task that is repeated and you're spending a lot of time doing it, then you automate the part. You don't need to, hey, automation is limiting, I need to do the whole thing. No, whatever eases your job and is easy enough to do it, you don't need to spend too much time doing it. If it's too complex and you force yourself to do it, then you might make some mistakes in between there. Yeah, then it's not worth it to automate. Then no point.
Yeah, the thing is, if you automate certain parts of it, but if one part is dependent on the next part, but in between there has to be a manual.
Yeah, there are gaps in there sometimes.
Yeah.
True.
So yeah, it may not be practical. Because you can test one part and one part, but like if one part is step 3 and the next part is step 4, and automate step 3 inside step 3 and inside step 4, but the step 4 depends on step 3 to work first, then it may not.
Then when you design the test case itself, you can design so that it will work, or if that's the case, there's a dependency of 4 on 3, then if 3 fails, then you don't proceed with 4. Because what we do here is we automate the regression test. So let's say you let it run overnight. The next morning you try and get the report and see, okay, these are the things that I know passes. These are the things that fail. Then you have to look into it again. You won't be able to just take the report and dump it to the developer and say, hey, you see this one failed already. Why fail? I don't know. The program tell me fail, I fail. You can't do that. You just have to go back and investigate again what's going on. Maybe you have to do one round of manual testing to make sure that it does fail and why it fails. Then send it to the developer. It can be done. It depends on what is the testing design on it. But like you say, if it's too complicated, it's not worth your time, then the ROI is not there, then don't do it.
Yeah, continue with the usual, the old way.
Any other questions?
So I think the lesson here is that automated testing doesn't exactly mean fully automated testing. It's more of you can make life easier depending on like how many repetitive tasks you have to do or stuff that you're doing. I mean, like for example, for our case, also it's like the stuff that like the products we have online and all our websites, they change like on a daily basis. So sometimes the developers or even customer support, like they take up the slack in really taking the time to test things even themselves. Even us, like oh yeah, fine, I'm one of the managers, but I see like, okay, everybody's swamped, give me that one and I'll check it myself just because they're just some things that I don't know, it's like when you're moving too fast, it's hard to like, okay, stop, you figure this out on how to automate this thing, but it needs to go live in 5 hours. So what the fuck? What do you do?
I guess that's when continuous delivery comes in.
Yeah, more or less. So in a way.
CI, yeah.
I guess there's a timeline to follow where actually automated testing would be worth the time to write a script. If let's say your thing changes every day, you're not gonna write a script every day, right? It's really so what would you say is a more stable timeline to actually develop on scripts for automated testing?
Would be I think daily. I don't know how critical is the application. How critical is the application that you need to do update on daily and you need to test it?
Well, if you're maintaining more than 30, and every single one is being handled by a separate business unit, so there's deploys happening by every 30 minutes to 1 hour. So you're like thinking, so what the fuck? Oh, something breaks. Boss, what to do?
So I guess that's when all the unit testing and API level testing will be more useful in a sense because those tests are quicker to complete
Yeah.
as compared to GUI testing. GUI you need to load
Yeah.
the images and the
Partly
web
parallel
browsers and stuff like that.
At least from our end, I think the fastest one that you can automate will be test transactions, signups, everything else you just manually do everything.
Just to share my experience, right? When I try to write tests for the websites, sometimes it's demotivating because it's slow. You see, it's slow.
Yeah.
There are a lot of factors because website, right? One JavaScript file might fail to load. Sometimes this time a CSS might fail to load and something goes wrong. So it's not that the website is wrong, but it's the environment issue. But when we did something on API, which is all command prompt based, I am very happy to write automated tests because I'm testing request return is all text. So nothing goes wrong, rarely goes wrong, and my tests run very fast. So that's the time when I find I'm really doing test-driven development. I write tests, but for websites, right? I think I would recommend, just based on my experience, that you can't really test everything. Just like what you said, websites has too many uncertainties. You just like what you say, you should test the essential functions, the most valuable. When it breaks, your company will break. Those you might need to write. But if you say you have a full suite, you test all the single links, it will take you like what 2 days to run. That's what happened to us. It takes so long time, and by following best practice, right? Supposedly, when the QA test something, you have to run the test to make sure it doesn't and nothing breaks. You run the test. Your manual testing takes you 1 hour. Your suites takes you 1 day. they won't
But
they
the
won't
thing
follow
is,
the best
you see,
practice. Yeah.
the thing is, if you're talking about a human 1 day, it's
Yeah.
8 office hours. But if you say the machine is running a script for 1 day, you can let it run by batch across different time at night when nobody is doing anything. Then you have the more stable environment. When you come back, let's say just now when you say if there's an environment issue, some of the codes do not load on the page. It is a defect.
Yep.
Yeah, you can log it under environment issue, but it's still a defect. So it's better to keep track of this issue
I
as
think
well.
that has mainly to blame for the nature of the experience website because it's stored in a different geographical location and a lot of times something's just not stable. So that's why we have a lot of pain in the website.
Are you a developer?
I'm a developer.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why.
But for command prompt testing is quite fun.
I know.
To do.
API. I think the next round he'll be presenting on whatever he used for his API testing. Yeah. He's supposed to present today, but he didn't prepare for it. So. Anyway, you see, that's why I say for this job, you can't get a developer to do this. Sometimes the way developers think is just I need to write a code and I need to do unit testing, everything is fine, it's okay. QA we have a set of processes we need to go through. If there's a defect, what do we do and things like that. And even very small stuff that you might think that is okay, but to a QA it is not. As long as it doesn't fit the requirement, it's wrong. So yeah, for this task it's actually hard for QA, hard for developer. If you get a developer into it, a lot of things will miss out.
I think there's a philosophical issue here actually. So the reason why I asked so many questions just now because I am not a believer of UI testing and I have experiences, terrible experiences on maintaining UI testing, and I am a believer of the pyramid of automated testing, that UI testing should be minimized and things like API testing should be maximized.
Yes.
So
That's the correct way.
so yeah, that's why that's why I don't buy the idea of UI testing. UI and good.
But it is a necessity. Even on the pyramid, it's not. There's no pyramid head.
You
just try to minimize.
key pages. You address key pages.
I think in any circumstances you can't run away from unit testing because that's what the end user is looking at. So I guess what you need to automate is how the user is using it rather than more valuable if you test it at the API and the unit level. On the GUI level, what is more valuable is testing how the user is using your system. So I guess that will be the highest rating. That's where BDD comes in.
Sometimes, right, the bosses, they will ask you, we have spent so much time and resources to build automated tests. What is the value it brings? Because we can't really measure how many bugs will catch or something. You know, the product guys, they'll just say, what are the automated tests? I don't care, I want the feature to go up fast. So we have this question asked, and sometimes we can't really answer. I know we need automated tests, it's a good practice, but to say what it helps and what value it brings, it's sometimes hard.
You're talking about automated UI tests, right?
Yeah,
or you're talking about automated
I'm
unit
talking
and
about mainly UI.
UI.
Very simple. You just, if they want statistic and numbers to convince them, you just collect the previous
because we didn't collect.
change request. Let's say no, think about this. Just think of the previous change request that you have, a few of it.
Yeah.
How many testers are involved in it? How long is the duration of the testing? Then you get an average of how every time you roll out CR, how much
Do you
cost
think
is
we shorten
involved.
our time? Sometimes it takes longer. The automated test.
Because I think the test, one common pitfall, our tests are not all the tests brings the value.
Yeah.
So you're writing a lot of
rubbish.
unnecessary tests because
That's also why I asked about how do you map your requirements to test.
yeah, so that's where you need to see whether the BDD comes in very helpful if you accept, if you understand the concept of BDD or ATDD, it's very helpful in that sense, because then you're actually testing you're only testing features of behavior of how the user uses it, rather than testing every single component in the system.
I like deleting codes.
Maybe instead of telling them how's the ROI going to be, maybe you just tell them, okay, this is the amount of resources that we spend doing this for regression testing. So if we have to develop this, it will cost this amount of resources, which is time times number of people, which equivalent to a figure, a number. So you tell them that across how many we have CR frequently of how often do we have it. So across how long we get the ROI. Just tell it to them.
Another thing is that even if it's useful, once there are some bugs escaped and you are forced to roll back or there's a production issue, people will question, why isn't your test helpful? So they, sometimes they tend to forget the good things, but they will emphasize on one small bug that goes out and say that the automation doesn't help.
That's very common.
So
That's
that's a challenge. We are trying to think what is the balance between
No, what we do is definitely good. It's just that it depends on how you design the test case and what is being tested for. So if you have a very comprehensive test suite and things still screw up, then it's your fault. If it's in your scope, like you missed it, then it's your fault. If it's not, then you have to do some explanation.
That's why you need amazing customer support.
I think what the speaker said just now, you need data. Because if you don't have data, you can't justify at all. So you need to collect data.
Yeah, always a business case.
Yeah.
You show them data.
It's always ROI.
You don't have data,
You can do that also.
But you can do that. No, you can actually do that.
Sorry?
Yeah, normally business people will look for numbers. That's why. So you actually have to look for the numbers, and then you actually just send it to the business people. You don't say that, oh, I'm really humble, and try to transcend the borders.
Do you guys test the performance of the UI? Let's say that page is slow. Is there a way that
No, the performance testing would not be using this tool.
No, it won't.
There are other tools for that.
Yeah.
Rational performance tester, load runner.
page load time?
Something like
That one is basically we test for a few things. One is the return time. Another one is the resources used on the server itself. Resource utilization and failure rate.
So what about the on the browser side? Let's say a lot of JavaScript, right? It's kind of like hangs a little bit and such. Is there a way to measure?
It happens to put a man there and click and check.
you try.
Okay, that is when we talk about performance testing instead. Okay, it's different from this. That one we are testing it not on one user. When we test usually it's concurrent user. Let's say concurrently like 20 or 50 users doing that. So what you do is just sending the request itself. So you get the return code and see whether
So you compare like the time on it.
yeah, you compare the time as well as like I said just now the server resources. And another thing is the failure rate. That means if the page fails to load, whatever parts that needed, or just get hampered halfway, then it will fail. So each of these will have a different criteria. Let's say the server utilization must not be more than 50% at all times when you have 50 concurrent users or below. And let's say the failure rate must not be more than 3.5%, things like that. You have to sit down with the customer and tell them that, okay, what is the things that you expect? Then you go and do a test and tell them whether it's a pass or fail based on their expectation. Let's say they say if there's 1,000 users logging in and my team of them have to hit the refresh page, then it's okay. If they say, oh, we don't want any at all, then your conditions will be more stringent. So for those you can use load runner or
Kingdom.
rational performance tester, or I think there's some free ones but they're not as sorry? JMeter. Anything else? Anyone?
Back to automated testing. In your experience, before and after you implemented your automation, because they're very metric driven, right? So what is the percentage of time or workload you have saved over this period?
The other than that,
The management schedule.
how much time do we have saved? Actually, we did not save time because we are still using the same amount of resources, and there are actually just more projects. And I think we increased the coverage instead. So we are testing more and into more details. The human resources that are being freed up, they test more in depth on some of the stuff that we did not automate. So yeah, I think I did not have the statistic, but if we are able to see it, then probably you can see that there's a reduction in defects instead.
But could you approximate how much coverage extra you get or whichever, in percentage for example?
No. But if you are talking about free time that we managed to free up, I'll think of one example.
This one like productivity increase training where
I did one project in Singapore Exchange. 2 months with 3 person in a team. And then we help them automate one module. That module itself for one particular run would take 2 weeks of 2 person to do it. We use manually. So we use 3 person over 2 months to automate the module, which if they use repeatedly, you can count for yourself how many iterations before they can get the ROI with the actually automation is more for regression testing that you have to test it again and again over a long period of time. Then it's worth it to automate. If not, don't bother. Just do manual things.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go, let's do like the webcam. We open the floor. Anyone who wants to hire or anybody who wants to be hired, you can just stand up and tell everyone.
Well, yeah, we do need testers as well soon. Not right now, but soon, very soon.
Actually, you can post any of this information
On the Facebook group.
page itself.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, hopefully there'll be more testers to join and you will get your message.
Yeah, we'll be going
Thank you
to.
for coming.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you guys.
Right.
Bye. Alex, where are you going to present?
Next time.
Bloody hell.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure.